Well, I'm gone. A rare Monday recording. Jason, how's your week going so far?
Well, we recorded, let's see, it's 9 a.m. right now, and we recorded, yeah. So we podcasted 14 hours ago. So not much has changed is sort of the point that I was making.
Life comes at you fast, bro. You could easily, I'm in a different city. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I switched up on them.
Okay, well, since we last spoke, I recorded a podcast and edited it, and then had some chilaquiles for dinner, homemade everything, of course.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Had the tortilla chip called Tutus. Are you familiar with this? They're a Palm Springs
Now
brand.
we're talking. No, I'm not familiar with this new tortilla. Or is it old tortilla chip new to you, new to me?
I think it's new to you. It's been kicking around the Palm Springs area for some time now, and they have it at like McCall's and Cookbook and, you know, the specialty gourmet shops. But in Palm Springs, you can also get it at like a gas station.
Okay, so it's very cool that some old gay guy started a tortilla chip brand and wanted to keep it local in Palm Springs, but it feels like that's not maybe.
It could be an abuelita. We don't know that.
That's true. But it seems like Palm Springs, a wonderful place, very small market for the tortilla chip business. Is I just might get, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's booming.
They've expanded to the Yucca Valley. You know, they're moving on up, left, right, and center.
Of course, I
just did that. I went.
No, I just wanted to hear more about these. What's the style? Restaurant style, kind of homemade style. Too salty, perfect salt.
They're kind of homemade style. They're thick.
Ooh.
And they're kind of well fried.
Okay.
It's almost. Do you remember when you would eat like those churro twists?
Yes.
At Taco Bell.
Oh, yes, I do.
It's not like that, but it's a little bit like that. Like it almost feels like there could be some powdered sugar and cinnamon on them, but the thickness and the structural integrity of the chip allows it to hold up to a chilaquile saucing. Yeah, it could really take a licking.
You can dip the shit out of these things, and they're gonna hold their own.
Oh yeah!
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. Throw whatever you got at them in the kitchen sink.
Okay, I can't wait to
just let them soak in the kitchen sink overnight. They're still gonna go.
I can't wait to try tutu in LA. I'm really looking forward to it. That's great.
We're gonna do
something to look forward
to
in my life. Finally.
Don't say that, Chris. Come on, you're still humming off of the family reunion, getting to build with uncles and aunties and cousins.
Yeah, that's true.
Fellow CEOs.
That's true.
In the Chattanooga space.
That's true.
I did watch SNL, and it was probably one of the worst episodes of Saturday Night Live I've ever seen in my life. And that's a sentence that half the time when I watch SNL nowadays, it's either like, huh, that was actually not awful, or that was maybe the worst episode I've ever seen.
There's always.
And it's starting to come more often.
There's always one or two things that are funny, but I also, because I watch it on YouTube and because I refuse to sit through an hour and a half, I pick those based on just kind of my visuals. You know, I'm kind of like, this seems like it could be funny, so I'm not going to be surprised very often. So
you're saying you judge a book by its cover?
That's right, I do. That by a thumbnail. I judge a video by its thumbnail. I don't think I'm the only one that does that. I don't think I think that might be why
you are not, but that is the problem.
No, I'm not going to. I think I've watched enough Saturday Night Live as a 42-year-old man to kind of know what's going to hit, because I like Weekend Update more than any sketch, so I always go to that first, you know, and then the monologue, which is a huge hit or miss opportunity. But yeah, Bill Burr, we love Bill Burr. We unite on that, but it sucked.
A master of stand-up comedy, he was off that time. It was tough. I feel like, because whenever you're a comedian and you're hosting SNL, it's sort of like, oh, I need to be holding my microphone versus everyone else in the world can just do it with the lav mic that's taped to their shirt. Yeah. But every stand-up comedian's like, I think I need, and it's a little arrogant. I think it's kind of like, if you're gonna ask for the handheld mic, you kind of have to put yourself on some sort of, there have to be consequences. And if you don't nail an excellent stand-up set, we're going to take your mic rights away. Next time Billy Burr hosts, he's going to the lav mic, I said.
He's going, that's the punishment for stand-up? That's a good, I like that. That's as a judge, if you don't do good,
just add some consequences to it, or else it's no fun. You know what I mean?
At least they don't let him have a stool. Think how bad that could be. They pull a stool out. They got a stool.
I bet you it's happened. But also,
it's definitely happened.
You know,
it's definitely happened.
I'm sure doing stand up on live television in front of a studio audience of a bunch of like random people from the Midwest, and then you know, it seems like it's so hard.
Yeah, of course, definitely. That's why it's bad as a whole genre. I'm glad you got a chance to watch it though. You spent your time wisely on a Sunday.
Looks like we got our guest here, Chris. So why don't we introduce him?
What's up? All right, yeah, we can introduce him real quick. Ken, let us introduce you real quick. Today we have the OG, the pride of New Hampshire, documentarian Ken Burns is joining us from his lair deep in the woods
of Lower Manhattan.
Deep in the woods of Lower Manhattan.
We can't wait to talk to Ken. We met him at the GQ Creativity Awards a while back, so this has been a long time coming. So let's give him a ring.
Ken, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, just happy to be here. Another day in paradise, as they say.
Just 3 content creators brought together by GQ magazine. You know what I mean?
and really Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, because I would
that's true.
I would not have been within miles of that if they had not, if Trent had actually not insisted that I introduce them.
That's cool. Well, that's nice of Trent. We know Trent's a good guy. He looks out for his people.
Yeah,
he looks out for his people.
But also, I would say that it was a beautiful award ceremony for people who are creative in America. If you're hot as well, that helps probably. But I think it's one of those things where it's a little loosey-goosey and stuff.
As hot as I am, or hot as all the other people were?
Yeah, you're incendiary. We all know that. You've been a top 10 hottest documentarian.
Burns, come on.
Oh, it burns so good.
It's a verb, guys. Come on.
That's honestly, when you think of it that way, it is a powerful last name.
Ladies, I am a verb. But all that is to say, you did an amazing job introducing it, and you really sort of went above and beyond the call of duty to really deliver a beautiful introduction. And I was like, damn, he's one of the greats for a reason. So well done.
Thank you. I felt like a fish out of water. I think Atticus and Trent did. There was a lot of glad handing and backslapping and
I wish I could remember your speech, but I'm sure it was poetic. I'm sure it was amazing.
I wish I could remember I know it was
when
poetic.
You do all right, so when you do something like that, when you give a speech or introduce someone or something, do you write it down? Do you go off the dome?
Yeah,
okay,
no,
write it down.
In the case of Trent and Atticus, we've worked with them for years and years. They've did first on the Vietnam series, just did unbelievable amounts of compositions that sort of brought the universality of war to us in really spectacular ways. And I think because that collaboration was fruitful for them, that's one of the reasons why Trent, wanted to have that. I can't speak for him, but I felt honored and therefore obligated to be there and to not just wing it as a lot of people were doing with glad handing and shout outs and kind of.
Yeah, I can't imagine you at the podium kind of just pointing into the crowd, shouting people out for 5 minutes.
Yeah, yo, brother, yeah. Right now,
it's really see Lamar Lamb in the back. What's up, my man? So, well, you mentioned the word glad handing a couple times. Do you wish you had a little more, not a full transformation, maybe 15% more backslapping and glad handing in you, or do you like being a little bit more behind the scenes?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I felt kind of out of it the whole time. Like I met you guys online and I was complaining about the tuxedo I had to wear because I knew that Trent wouldn't come with a tuxedo. I thought he'd come with spikes and chains and stuff like that. Sure, yeah. And he actually came with a very elegant morning coat, a cutaway.
Yeah.
And it was great. So I felt like, that was the last time I put on my monkey suit. I got some time to put it on again, but I would have preferred to have been there a little less dressed, but also that kind of, Satchel Paige had the best advice. You have, don't look back, something might be gaining on you, but he had like other wisdoms, which he says, avoid carrying on in society. The social ramble ain't restful. If your stomach disputes you, lie down and pacify it with cool thoughts. Avoid running at all time. When you get to the fork in the road, take it. No, that's Yogi Berra. No,
this is hitting a little too close to home for me.
Avoid fried foods, which angry blood.
That's
This is
what
Satchel.
that's what Satchel Paige famously said. Famously.
Yeah, no, I mean, these are great things. Any cardiologist would agree. Any lifestyle coach would say.
Wait, Ken, really quick, I think you're cut off really quick. Could you deliver the second half of the avoid fried foods part? I didn't hear it.
Oh, he said, avoid fried foods which angry up the blood. And I think any cardiologist would agree with that.
Yes.
If your stomach does you lie down and pacify it with cool thoughts, that's meditation. Don't look back. Something might be gaining on you. Don't dwell in the past. Look to the present, to the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's all pretty good advice from, this gangly pitcher of indeterminate age who played forever in the Negro. In fact, in our baseball series, we would say he was 39 or 37 or 41, because
He continues.
we never knew what the age. And then when he came into the majors, he was this, he was that. I mean, we always just made it up. He's fabulous, but that advice is pretty good. Don't look back.
That really is good advice. How often do you wear a tuxedo, and when did you buy your first one?
I rented for a while, and then it seemed ridiculous. Then I bought some terrible off the rack thing, and then I got something from Ralph.
There we go. Let's go.
Yes, sure.
Who's a friend, and so now I just do that. But he actually, what Ralph did is he made me 3 suits about 7 years ago. At the first fitting, I was fine. 5 fittings later, he was fine. So it's like I still put them on, and they feel like, oh wow.
Okay, so you're 7 years later, same size, everything fits.
But I wear blue jeans and a t-shirt and a pullover, most every day, and I prefer that. But every once in a while, you gotta look sharp.
It's nice to dust off the Ralph.
Yeah, no, well, Ralph is like one of the great people on earth. He's this completely self-made genius of a person who understood that if he invested in manifesting what his dreams had been growing up in all these areas, Hollywood, Gatsby, all that sort of stuff, everybody would follow.
They did.
Everybody
for years, for decades, literally decades.
Follow up question. When somebody like Ralph Lauren goes out of his way to do
Lauren, just you want to make Lauren it because of how very special it is, but it's Lauren.
When Ralph Lipschitz says, "Hey,"
yes, Ralph Lipschitz.
When Ralph says,
"That's right, from the Bronx."
From the Bronx.
I'm from the Bronx. When somebody of that stature offers you such a beautiful, generous favor, "Hey, I want you to come in. I want to make these custom suits for you, Ken Burns." Is there a little hope that maybe this guy will make a doc about me and my beautiful story one day? Do you think he's planting a seed? And does this happen to you often in life?
Yeah, right. Yeah, people make suits for me all the time. No, no, I've been friends with Ralph for 30 plus years. We have talked about film, not one that I would make because I'm his friend, but there was I think American Masters, which is
there was.
And he's very modest, and so I think there's this, push me, pull you sort of thing of like I'm on I shouldn't be on this side of the storytelling. He's put himself in it, but in his work, because he's so handsome and he's got that thing, and his wife Ricky is so beautiful, and his kids are great.
He's one of those rare. He's one of those rare cases too, where like the question, like if he is not running that, can it still exist? Like he's such a singular figure that like the talk of retirement or a successor is always like, well, I don't know if that would work. And there's just not many things like that.
No, there's not. I mean, he's sui generis. He is who he is. It's an American story, really utterly American story of somebody who's self-made, and it doesn't have kind of, I mean, his son David works with him, other siblings of David do as well in various degrees, but it is really locked up in his just sensibilities. I think they can go on for a while because he's taught so many great people, but he's a singular genius.
It's cool. No, it's cool. It's rare. So you have to respect it while it's still going on.
That's right.
So I've been watching some Leonardo lately, Ken.
Good for you.
Good for you.
I haven't finished all of it, but I've gotten pretty close.
I really wanted you guys to see it, right? Because what they say, the cliche is that we're using only 10% of our brains. And I know you guys would think that was a stretch. So this is a guy who's using 75 or 85% of his brain, and kind of it becomes infectious, and you want to know him. It's the first non-American topic we've ever gotten into, and it's really just the gravity, the sort of gravitational force of this perhaps most smartest of all people on earth. And, not just a great artist who has the greatest painting ever made, but the greatest scientist of his age. And oh, by the way, he's an engineer, and he's a designer, and he's an anatomist, and he's a botanist, and he knows, and a philosopher. So he knows everything.
It's like today where an influencer is a photographer and a stylist and it's the same kind of thing.
He's one of the first multi-hyphenates. I don't know how to say it in Italian, but yeah.
I think about that every day, and it's no. People say, well, isn't there somebody like that out there today? And I know what they're heading for, Elon Musk, and I go, no. In one of his fingernails is Elon Musk. I mean, that's the magnificent thing
for
about
listeners at home, when Ken was holding up his fingernail, it was a specific finger that he was using when describing Elon Musk and the knowledge in that head. To backpedal really quick, you said Leonardo's using around 75-80% of his brain. Is that scientifically proven, or is that your guesstimate as a
nor is it. It's a cliche that we use 10%. We need a neuroscientist here, and I know probably tomorrow
we talk to neuroscientists a lot.
I know that. So be sure to ask them, what it is. What's so great is that he's relentlessly curious about everything, all the stuff that we don't do. And he doesn't have hyphenates, even though we put hyphenates in because we don't know how to handle somebody who's not got all these different silos. He doesn't see the difference. So, the Mona Lisa is a great work of art, a great work of science, and the anatomies are great works of art. And just by saying that, I can hear his voice in my head go, but why are you making the distinction? In order to paint the Mona Lisa, I had to know everything, not just about what this person looked like, but how to paint, how to actually know what the bone structure was like, how to know how hair was, how to know in the background what atmosphere. I mean, it's when you get into it, it suddenly rewards, and you realize that we live a fraction of our lives. So people say, what do you want people to take out of a film? And I go, nothing. We just worked for 10 years on Vietnam. Whatever you take out is whatever you take out. But this one, I want everybody to sort of be caught fire a little bit and want to be more like him. You know what I'm saying? Just the other thing is I don't want any more jokes about, once you see it, you can do it up till now, any more jokes about the Mona Lisa, smile. Because when you see,
we're putting our foot down. We're putting our foot down.
You begin to understand that he has invested this person, a 24-year-old wife with 5 kids of a well-to-do Florentinian silk merchant, a commission which he never delivered the final product, which he often did. He's got fewer than 20 paintings, and fewer than 10 of them are complete in his lifetime, and he's considered by many the greatest painter.
That's how you keep demand high. That's how you keep demand high.
Yeah, right, exactly. But he didn't make money.
No, I know.
He was busy. He was busy inventing airplanes and flight to really complete.
Which he didn't do. He just allowed us. He just allowed us to dream and make sure that happened. They become more. His mind is so capacious that we want to give him the helicopter or the scuba diver or the submarine or the tank. He didn't really do it. But he gave us the drawings and the dreams to allow us to do it. And that's why, of all the people I've done, he's the farthest away in the past. He died more than 500 years ago, but he seems the most modern. And if he came here, I don't think he'd miss a beat. I think he'd go, oh, good, you solved that.
You're saying Leo would be on Instagram like it's no problem?
Oh, totally. He'd be a filmmaker, because I think he invented film, because if you take The Last Supper, it's not like a frozen moment. It's like a frozen lots of moment. He put me out of business.
Okay. All right, so you got to keep your enemies.
I'd have to go back and just be like, oh, well, man, okay.
You got to keep your enemies close. So that's why you do what you do. That makes it. I mean,
and he's fun guy. He's like my daughter Sarah, who's the co-director along with my son-in-law David McMahon. We've made lots of films on the Central Park Five, Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali. We got 3 projects in the pipeline right now that we're deep into. But he's this lateral thinker, and he demands of us to see things a little bit bigger than what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great gift to the present, to the past. And so, and the other thing is, my daughter says, is you have to rip the beard off him, right? Because we think of him as Gandalf, right? And we presume that he's some tortured artist, and he's not. He's like he's very friendly, jovial, good company to be around, played music, sang, put on theatricals, dressed extravagantly. I mean, it was just fun to be around, not the tortured Michelangelo or the sort of.
Yeah. He was a little curly-haired twink until he started being able to grow that long beard, huh?
Yeah, but but that beard doesn't come until much, much later. And what happens is there's one great painting that he abandoned called the Adoration of the Magi, in which there's one figure looking away from the scene. Everybody's focused on the child. It's very complex. Scholars think it's the first experimental painting in Western art, in that he's just changing as he's going along, as he's painting, not the way you'd normally lay it out. Do a cartoon, as it's called, which is a drawing and then fill in the painting. He's changing it. So you can see all those changes, and it's just this overlay, like a Grand Canyon of creativity. But there's one figure that's looking away, and it looks like him, beardless. And I always thought that it was either all the questions that he wanted answered in that painting had been answered, or he realized that that painting was not going to answer the questions he wanted answered. And so he was like, I'm out of here. And you can see him tugging at the edges. And the fact that he abandoned it is so interesting.
Wow. Well, I guess that sort of reminds me, going back to, saying that he planted the seeds for these inventions that were unable to be completed because of we needed to advance more technologically with building materials and things like that. But I remember a quote that stuck out from the film. I'll paraphrase a little bit, but it seemed that he was almost more interested in the drawing of the invention and writing out the details of, like, here's how you create an airplane. I'm not able to do it now, but
yeah,
he was almost more satisfied with, and thought like the completion of the physical invention was almost like, well, take it or leave it.
Yeah, and Jason, I think he goes even farther. I think he begins to realize that the actual doing of it is a little bit of a distraction. There's a mental process. He wants to build an ornithopter, which is a human-powered thing, and the materials were too heavy for the time, and so they wouldn't have worked. And they had bat-like wings, are really spectacular, and everything's based on nature and his study of nature, and he sees nature as perfect in every single way, and that humans are sort of flawed but part of this nature. And anyway, so he's doing these things, and then finally he's more interested, I just want to study the flight of birds. So he leaves us with
we've all gotten to that point in our lives, where it's like, I gotta give it up. The flight patterns of birds is kind of my thing now. Yeah, we've been there.
So he figures out aerodynamics. He knows about gravity before Galileo. And what one of the scholars in the film, Carlo Vecchi, this Italian, which is a beautiful man, says, it's really just for him prophecy. That is to say, that's what I'm saying, that he left the space open for us to dream. There are practical inventions that he made, Archimedes screws and new inventions, and he'd do exploded views in addition to the thing. They're beautiful works of art, but it was less. He was just pursuing the biggest questions that none of us ask. What's the nature of the universe? Where did I come from? What is my purpose here? Where am I going to?
Jason asks those questions when he's high on marijuana, but otherwise he doesn't ask those questions.
Yeah. I'll take an edible and be like, why does the snail shell go spirally like that, man? That's freaking crazy.
You guys with the edibles, you're just like so minor league, like double A, single A. Because I grew up in Ann Arbor in the 60s. And I hear, I'm eating an edible. And I go, okay, that's great. Maybe we'll go from 10% to 11% of the brain, right?
Okay. I didn't know you had to make it scientific like that, but you make a good point.
Okay. What were you sucking down back in Ann Arbor then?
What weren't we? And it wasn't sucking, by the way.
I should say slurping. I'm sorry, Ken.
There was no slurping. There was alcohol. That was slurped.
Okay.
But everything else was smoked or snorted or swallowed.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, Jason. We're familiar with the way that these things are ingested. I apologize for my friends.
Oh, good. Yeah, he just suddenly dropped down to about 9%, 8%, 7%.
Apologize.
Let's not get into the semantics of the
Yeah.
slurping, but I want to know how, like, Hunter Thompson were you getting? Was the mescaline going into the eyeball? Like, how big are your britches?
When I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, it like threw me back into a flashback. It was so terrifyingly real.
You thought you were reading your diary?
I thought I was right. Roberta Flack. He's read my letters out loud. I was like, help me.
How did you get my letter?
How did you know?
That's a nice thing to experience in a book. I didn't. Okay.
It's sort of if it's pleasant, but it wasn't pleasant. It was like, whoa, he's tripping. I get it.
You have to take the good with the bad. That's the problem with drugs. You never know.
Yeah, well, Leonardo said that he was glad that he didn't have that sort of formal, structured university education, and he was educated by himself in nature. So there's a little through line there as well. I'm assuming you went to college, though.
It's a huge through line. He's born out of wedlock, so it doesn't permit him to follow the traditional course of one of his father's sons, which was to get the family names. He gets named after a patron saint of freedom, but he also doesn't go to university. He doesn't go to school. He can go to trade schools. He can learn stuff. He can be apprentices in a workshop, but it liberates him. And so by the end of his life, he knows more than any scholar in any discipline about their discipline.
Yeah.
But he's transcended it. And what he's used as nature as his great teacher. And so you see this time and again. He looks at a hand and he sees a branch of a tree or a leaf and the veins there. I mean, the most amazing thing that it's in the film is that he gets some bodies, some dead people, and he's able to dissect them, and he understands that the veins are silted up. He knows about water dynamics and rivers, so he realizes, he sort of knows that arteriosclerosis has happened. But he looks at a human heart, he realizes that they're not two chambers as people had thought for 1,300 years, Galen, the celebrated Greek physician, but four. And he understood, he started to make models with ox hearts and make something like this. And he'd figure out how the flaps in the things work. And he has water and grass seed. He knows about water and how it turns. He's got these little silk as the valves. And this is no purpose whatsoever. None. It's all detailed. Nobody's ever thinks, oh, we should do an operation on a person's heart because they're silted up, right? No, nobody knows about this. There's no use for it. But 475 years later, when they're MRIs, everything that he had said about the design of the heart, including the flow and how the valves worked and how water or blood flowed between them, even when they were partially closed, is exactly true. So people did do human-powered flight 475 years afterwards. I've got a foot doctor in New York who says that only his drawings are the only thing that matter to me. Like the best anatomical drawings of the human body are his.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, the greatest painter, right? With the most famous painting.
The guy does it all. The guy does it all.
Some of the very first feet pics of all time, but
Yeah, most definitely. In fact, his first job, the real thing, was his master, Verrocchio, said, I'm painting this big painting, a biblical scene, of course. He says, I want you to do Christ's feet, which are underwater, and I want you to do one of the two angels. And if you look at Christ's feet in this painting by Verrocchio and one of the angels, the one that he did, you can realize that Verrocchio went, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. This motherfucker's coming for me.
This guy knows more than I do. And to his credit, he goes on. There was competition, I assume jealousy. But there was also this desire among all the folks in Florence and elsewhere in the Renaissance to just improve. And everybody around you is doing spectacular things in architecture. Brunelleschi's dome, and Verrocchio is also
raising the bar overall.
It basically brought out the best, you know. When Larry Bird and Magic Johnson played, you always felt like you were getting something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So who is your Larry Bird then, Ken? Well, just really quick, and then we'll move on.
That would be Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay, I got it. What's up with your feet? Are they okay?
Yeah, totally. I walk a lot, so inevitably at 71 years old, stuff breaks down.
Have to. What is your go-to walking? Because people really swear by certain shoes for walking if they're really getting their steps in.
So this is where my doctor gave me. I've got New Balance, big, huge kind of.
Okay. So you're a New Balance guy, but is there an insert or is this raw New Balance?
No. I used to have I had a what's it called?
Yeah.
Orthotic, like 20 years ago, but stuff changes,
Technology has
right?
gotten much more advanced.
I walk at least 5 miles a day, if not more.
I
Okay.
was looking at like a New York Times or New Yorker profile about you from like 2017. It said that you were walking a lot then. So this is like a habit that you've been on.
Yeah, I like it. It's also, I mean, for me, I live in rural New
Not much
Hampshire.
to do up there except walk, really.
No, I go out in the morning and
Observe nature.
and I observe nature, and you just feel like I'm also a lefty
Same.
who spent his
Same.
entire school smudging the paper, and this is no accident. Leonardo's a lefty who then writes everything he writes, whether it's a grocery list or a complaint about somebody in the workshop or a philosophical treatise about the nature of water dynamics. He writes backwards mirror script. So think about
Whoa.
every time, pat your head, rub your tummy. You finally figured out.
Damn,
how
so
to,
you're
right,
saying you've mastered walking and looking, but you haven't you're not able to write backwards yet.
I don't write backwards. I still smudge this
That
stuff.
is so funny that you bring that up.
But this was the time when you had the quill ink pen, so there was no instant drawing ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
So you had to do that.
So there was something, and we found it in Florence. Sarah and Dave found it in Florence. They moved there for my daughter and son-in-law, David McMahon and Sarah Burns, moved to Florence with my oldest grandkids from 22 to 20, summer of 22 to summer 23, spent a year there, and they found these artisans who are using the same material, so we could just film them doing it, including one guy who has perfected writing backwards in a mirror script. It's pretty cool.
And he's like, you guys finally called because I have this really cool skill that nobody gives a fuck about, and now this is
cares.
great.
Yeah, no.
And that was my time.
Now's your
It's
time.
the big league.
Right.
I'm coming up. I'm coming up. That's funny because that was the bane of my childhood existence. As a person that had what was considered to be great penmanship, the smears would catch up with me as I got.
Yeah, well, if I sign like book plates for whatever, no matter how hard I try, I end up with the whole side of my the heel of my hand
covered.
just
It's covered.
and it just,
You should try. I'll do the
hopeless.
little painter's trick where you can kind of put one pinky down,
Oh, yeah.
or you get
Yeah.
a dowel and
Yep.
use that to guide you.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's tough. It's so finally we should start. In Italian, left-handed is sinistra.
Yeah, you burn them like a witch.
Yeah. So
If you can't train them to be a right-handed person, they're as good as dead,
That's-
right?
Yes, so
Yes, that's what they always say.
In France, right is droit, which also means law. So it's like lefties are challenged, but as you know, and as I verified today by the sparkling conversation that we're having, that people tend to be more creative who are
Well,
lefties.
we are geniuses, present company included.
Much like America's blondes, lefties do have more fun.
That's true. No, a well-known saying. Ken, are you a note taker in general? Like, do you write a lot, or are you a computer guy?
Oh. Yeah, I write speeches and stuff longhand, and sometimes I'll type it up, but I'm always working. Everybody's now, I'm in these editing sessions, either Zoom or in present, and everybody's on their pad and they're making notes on that stuff. And I'm like, I make them kill trees and
Are you like a legal pad guy or a moleskin guy? You struck me as legal pad.
legal pad. Yeah, where is it?
Okay,
It's
so we got the classic yellow legal, and what is the
classic
go-to?
yellow.
What
Yeah.
is the pen that you use? Is it a Mont Blanc? Is
I
it
don't
Cartier?
care.
Okay,
No.
you don't care.
Oh God, I don't care. It's just like the $50 Timex, right?
Sure, okay. I didn't know if somebody had given you one, because that'd be a nice gift to give you. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, my daughter, I said, my youngest daughter wanted to give me a present a couple of Christmases ago, and I just said, yeah, give me another Timex because they're gonna just fall off, and it's better than trusting me with something.
at $50, you can kind of keep a couple in the closet, and if it stops ticking, you just
Yeah. Well, this is good. It's sort of like the haircut thing, like now. Tom Brokaw, when I turned 60, said, "You got to get a big boy haircut. Come on," like that. And I said, I made a joke. I said, hey, I thought you meant it was at 70. So at 70 now, I finally broke down and got a big boy post-COVID.
you have a great head of hair, which you're known for.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, and I'm known, and people, the John Paul, George, and Ringo part of
Hmm.
it is like been my stock and trade, and there was never a conversation anywhere in which somebody didn't bring it up. David Rubenstein, the billionaire
Uh-huh.
founder of Carlyle, co-founder of Carlyle Group, also does a lot of interviews. He's interviewed me like 8 times, and he's never, even when I cut my hair, not brought up my hair. Right? Like was I too poor? I chose documentaries. Was I couldn't cut
It
my
could be it
hair,
could he could be turned off by the Timex. He could be a watch guy.
That's
You
right.
know, he could be.
But what you don't know is that before my hair came, Ann Arbor days and Hampshire College days where I went to college, in Amherst, Massachusetts, it was, very long.
It was down to your ass, is what you're saying.
Does the barber come to you or do you go to the salon?
Oh, good question. This is a state secret, but I
Hmm.
found I was my moment was that a few years ago in the middle of COVID, must have been January of 91. Variety put me on the cover and they said, you got to go out to East Williamsburg in
Oh hell
Brooklyn.
no. Okay, you're going to Bushwick.
By the time I got there, I thought I was already to Montauk. I thought there was no way
Sure.
you could still be in Brooklyn and be driving as far as I was driven. And I'd said to them, look, my hair's super long. They said, we'll send somebody to cut it. And I would have gone, no. I had somebody who'd cut my hair, who'd retired. It started as a young woman, this business, which I went to. And then I would go to her, only her for 35, 40 years. She retired. I'd go to her house. And I finally thought, I can't just keep doing this. And
Hmm.
every time I was passing her house in Massachusetts, it was like 1 a.m., so it was like, never mind. So I said, okay. And I met this guy, really wonderful, wonderful, hilarious guy who just cut my hair. And I went, oh, okay. And so he happens to live uh, a few blocks from here in Manhattan. So when I'm here, I call him up and I say, George, that's his name, George, like George Washington, the founder of our country.
Sure.
Sure.
I said, George. And normally he says, yeah, and it's like in between, and it's sort of great. And we shoot the shit the whole time and talk politics and art, and it's just great.
That's a relationship that is very important to have if you can find that. It's a gift.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
gift.
yeah. You obviously just put the thing right over, which I'm every once in a while tempted to
Ken,
do.
you would think it was that easy. You would think it was that easy,
Yeah, I know.
Ken. But
Chris, I'm sorry. This is styled almost every day.
no. Look, I do. People are shocked to know that I do wash and condition my hair, even though it's this short. But that's just for scent purposes. You know what I mean? It's nice. It smells good. I get my hair cut once a week. I go to the East Village. Last time I was there, it was just me and Anderson Cooper getting our two iconic.
Oh, two. Oh, I was just going to say, right? Of course.
You know,
Yeah,
Silver Fox and other guy, and it was
yeah.
but it's a nice ritual.
It's a
It's a
nice
nice
ritual. Yeah.
That's I could probably do it myself, but it would make a mess, and I wouldn't get to have that time. It's like people talk about when you kind of go. Part of the joy of going to therapy is like the walk home because you get to kind of have some time to like. It's very similar with the haircut, like the walk.
Yeah, I made a film on jazz, and Stanley Crouch, the late thinker, he was trying to talk. I think it was about Duke Ellington, and he said, "Look, if you know the person who makes the best lemon meringue pie on the East Coast, and they give you the recipe, you can try it, but it's not going to be
It's
as
not going to be the
good.
same. No, it's not going to be the
So
same.
just put it away and just go." It's like, if you want to go to a great, Italian restaurant in the Village, Bar Pitti is right there, right on Sixth
Yeah, sure.
and between Alliston. I've been going there for 30 years. I think it's like the best, no frills. It's just
Hmm.
super great. So I can try to make it here. I can try to make it up at home in New
Yeah,
Hampshire,
look,
but
I'm with you. This is why I don't cook because New York is full of the best, and I can go out and get it. I don't need to make a mess. It's all available to me.
yeah, yeah.
And then your house doesn't smell like anchovies.
Yeah.
And the mess never tastes as good as what you're
But
getting.
how you're so close? You seem so. You've learned a lot about Italian culture. Can you read the Bar Pitti chalk menu, or do they have to bark it at you? Like, or do you just have your
because
favorites now?
because I have gone there for so
Yeah,
long,
yeah.
and because my oldest daughter is, not, she wouldn't say fluent, but she gets by. She got by. In fact,
That's good.
when my youngest daughter, who was then 12, and I would go out went to Italy to visit them, every restaurant we of course never had a bad meal, except when we didn't eat. And we would go into every place and they would go, Sarah, like this. And so she was beloved in every restaurant in Florence that we took me to. We never had a bad meal. So I think that, yeah, I've figured out what I can do a credible, if I were taking a date out, I'd take them to Bar Pitti and say, oh yes, well, that's the rabbit.
Of course. Yeah.
And
you could get, what is your go-to at Bar Pitti? Is it, I assume, pasta?
Yeah, what's the Pitti order?
So what you always get, which has always been on the special board for 30 years.
It's only for today.
Yeah, so only for today. Spinach, right? Which is they press the shit out of this spinach to get every bit of water out, and they dry it several times. They roll it; it's just brittle, and then they flash fry it in olive oil with garlic, and it's
delicious.
Like it's like Popeye. It's where Popeye gets all his strength from. And then for dishes, like my daughter likes the rigatoni with the meat sauce, which is delicious, and she never finishes, so I get to have it. I get either, if I don't have steak, I have maybe steak once a month. If I have it, it'll be there, because the tagliata, the sliced steak under arugula, is just like to die for, as good as anything. And then I also get, more often than not, the pounded chicken. It's really thin. It's sort of like almost like a pancake, only thinner, but it's always moist and delicious. And that's under some sun-dried tomatoes and endive. And then at the end, if you're ever deciding to have dessert, you would get the lemon sorbetto, which comes in a jack-o'-lantern of a lemon. They've carved it out and they've made it, and then they put the little hat on it, and you eat this and you realize, and Leonardo speaks about this too, is that man's responsibility, I'm kidding you not, is Florence. Remember, this is a Florentinian restaurant.
That's true.
The name of my film company that was started in 1975 is called Florentine Films. I swear to God, you can't make it up. And now we finally got, we've done it. But it is our responsibility to take the stuff of nature and transform it into something even better than nature. That's what human beings. A tomato's a tomato. We go to Rouse and try the meatballs and tomato sauce, or the meatballs at Bar Pitti, which are also fantastic.
I want to ask a question then, because the basketball jersey that was framed on the wall for so long is no longer there. Is it in your apartment as we speak?
No.
Did they give it to you as a gift? Did you steal it? Okay, you have nothing to do with that.
Nothing to do with that. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Normally, you would see in New Hampshire just quilts, and there's a quilt right above me, and there's lots of quilts around because I've been collecting quilts for almost 50 years. I'm old.
That's the most New Hampshire shit I've ever heard. Collecting
I did
quilts.
It before I moved to New Hampshire. I like to just think about it. It's like I dive into these stories. I have to know everything about them, and quilts are like completely anonymous. It might say Hannah on it, but you don't know if she's 18 or 28 or 88, happy, sad, did it alone, where you can't date them.
What do you do? You hang them up kind of as tapestries? Do you keep them in a closet? Do you frame them, or are they just?
I've got them in. I've got way too many, and I've got them in 2 glass things, maybe 60 of them there, and then I hang the rest in various places.
And where are you procuring these? Are you going to like Brimfield? Are you going to like?
Ooh, don't pull this New Hampshire shit on me, man. If you know about Brimfield, come on.
Brimfield's a pretty famous place to go purchase things like this.
Okay, yeah, I've never been there, but I've heard about
Someone's been doing their homework,
Chris.
Guys, this is in my world. This is a very common thing.
I bought a quilt in an antique store in Lewis, Delaware, one of the oldest towns in Delaware, Dutch settlement. And it was sort of orangish and garish, but lovely. And I still have it. It's a beautiful, beautiful quilt. And I just suddenly realized that it floated my boat. I liked the feeling that I had. They're like friends. Somebody found out I had some quilts, and the International Quilt Museum, as you know, is in Lincoln, Nebraska. Of course.
IQM, I go every year.
Yeah. And they did a touring exhibition around cities in the Midwest of my quilts, and I finally just said, we want to send it to another. I said, send them back. I miss them. And I laid them out on big, long long table in my barn, like 16-foot long table, and just kept them there and looked at them and walked around them, and they were like friends.
Took it all in. That's nice. You said this collection, the tour is over. The tour is
For
over.
oh, the tour is over. Yeah, I got them back.
Send my babies home.
I wouldn't let them. There's one in my bedroom here. I would never let them have that, or a couple of others, because I couldn't bear to not have them around.
Do you collect art, or is quilts kind of your thing?
Not really.
No.
Quilts. I did collect sort of vernacular American furniture, meaning cheap stuff you could buy at a flea market. But then when I made a little bit of money, I bought some shaker furniture, and I have some pretty nice shaker pieces. Pretty nice.
We love it. Have you been to the Commerce Inn in the West Village?
No, but I hear there's shaker stuff there. Where do you live in the Village?
I live in Soho. Jason lives in LA, but the Commerce Inn is
I thought there was something funny about the light.
Yeah, mine's bad. His is good. Yeah, exactly.
No, ours is good. It's winter light in New England or the Northeast, right?
My winter light is a little overhead and halogen for my liking, but we do what we can. No, but I just that like, it's funny to be in that restaurant because it really feels like you're in the 1800s in this way that's like pretty like, you don't get that feeling very often.
So it's funny. I spend most of my professional life in the past, but I don't want to be there. Like I'm trying to make it from the present. And I like the fact that stuff that I collect has a kind of universe. The thing that's great about the shakers, their architecture is even better than their furniture, is it's just enduring. It's just completely, utterly American, and it's functional and it's great. And I like that. There's not much as the Yiddish Ungepatch. There's not that much, extra added detail.
Yeah, it's very like
there.
Yeah,
but it's so elegant, and I've got a cabinet that's cherry wood, and it's like every day. I see it every day, and every day you go, holy, who made this? And they were just anonymous people who had dedicated themselves to a celibate life and living apart, males and females, and the kids went into the general population.
Look, if you're living apart, there's nothing else to do but build furniture. What are you going to do?
Put your hands to work and your hearts to God. That's what they said.
Exactly.
Okay, well, speaking of living separately in such a way, how do you think, or do you think that Leonardo would be able to create this beautiful art and have this mind if he were straight?
That's a good question. I think more being born out of wedlock was more influential, but I don't know. It's all speculative. What I love about this is that we have very little of the juicy tabloid details of his life. And so speculation is what we drive our trucks through these holes. But as filmmakers, we can't. We can just say, we know he's born out of wedlock, and that didn't permit him to go to university. Maybe that's the savings grace. I'm a man without letters, he said. And that's the fact that he was gay was not, just like today, it's both a burden and accepted. He was arrested with 3 other guys for sodomy, but one of them was a rich kid in Florence, and so the parents got them off,
I love that that's existed since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning of time.
Dad can make a call.
The French says, plus ça change, plus ça la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And so, although one of his first inventions was a machine to pry the bars off windows, which I thought was great. We know he had male companions in his entourage and household lasted for decades and decades. I don't know whether you could say, it's like 60% gay and 40% born out of wedlock, or 60% being born out of wedlock, 10%. How can you do this? He was
I'm 10% gay myself, and it influences everything that I do. So I'm glad to know that it's something that I think about a lot. I think about it a lot. So I understand where you're coming from. It
rounds his edges.
It rounds my edges, exactly. But I think you're right. How could you determine everything? It's all in one pot, right? You know what I mean? It's like all of this stuff kind of exists together.
Everybody's on the same spectrum, right?
But also, in like back then in the 15th century, you detail that homosexuality was sort of accepted and open in many communities.
Well, in the way it's accepted and open here, and also not. The church, it's theoretically, as one of the biographers says, it's punishable by death. At the same time, many artists and many people were gay and openly so. And so I'm just not sure
Yeah.
in the circles that he would travel in,
Yeah.
it was a big deal. And that's great. I mean, I've now taken, I used to in the beginning to talk about this 6 months ago, I would say born out of wedlock and gay and probably gay. Now I don't even bring it up. And if somebody knows or has done homework or wants to bring it up, then I'll try to come because after a while, it's sort of like, okay,
Mhm.
it's still a human being, it's Shakespeare, it's the Rialto scene where Shylock, the Jew, is saying, have I not eyes, organs, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, subject to the same diseases? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? It's true for
I
everybody.
agree, but I think it's a big win for the gays. That's all I'm saying is like, this is one of the top guys of all time. If you can,
I would say, hey, Chris, I would say, I believe he is the person of the last millennium. That is to say, from 1000 AD to 2000 AD. Now, I was just doing an interview with a British writer. I said, now you've got a really good claim. If you want to put up William Shakespeare, you got a really good argument. If I was talking to a German, or an Austrian, I mean, they could put up Mozart or Bach, or Goethe, the writer. I mean, there's people we could put up as flawed as he was, Thomas Jefferson, for distilling a century of enlightenment. And
I thought you were gonna say Bruce Springsteen, but yeah, Jefferson works too. That's
Bruce
fine.
Bruce is the boss. Bruce is just the boss. That's it.
Different. Okay,
But and he's straddling these millennia. But I'd be hard pressed because if he just did all these different things, and we live in a binary world. Everything is red state or blue state, young or old, gay or straight, rich or poor, black or white, male, whatever it might be. But what you learn very quickly, as you guys know, there's nothing binary there. The opposite of faith is not doubt. That's central to faith. The opposite of faith is certainty. That kills faith and kills mystery. And so we see, particularly among the holders or the advertisers of faith, too much certainty, right?
That's why I never got sucked into the mega church. I was able to resist
because it's certain.
I don't believe this guy. This guy's too sure of himself.
That's exactly right.
Which ties into Leonardo in general because he's an artist, but he's a certain artist because he's done the work.
He's questioning everything, and he's done the work. That's so super right, Jason. That he does the work. He proves it, and he's in a Western tradition, which is just observational. But because it's the Renaissance, you're bringing in Asian and Muslim influence, and that's experimental and mathematical Muslims, so that he's doing it all. And so he's finally, what characterizes the Renaissance is they're reaching back over the medieval and dark ages, dark for a reason, and pulling up the classical stuff. But he's not accepting it. He's questioning it. Too. And so he's the one who figures out that Galen's wrong, the Greek physician. They're not 2 chambers, they're 4. I can prove it, the way the valves work and how it flows. And you just go, wow. And this is the guy who did a painting of the 24-year-old wife of a well-to-do Florentine silk merchant who at age 24 had already had 5 kids.
That feels Shaker in a way. That
but,
part of
but,
it.
But the Mona Lisa looks so good, and it's so amazing because he has written out the calculations of the way light happens, and he's able to.
So the Renaissance is.
There's an equation for why it looks good.
There's equations, and there's an extraordinary art. They're using techniques that they hadn't used before, sfumato and chiaroscuro, which are basically, if you just, when we're done, just call up anybody in the sound of my voice. Just call up a high-res thing of the Mona Lisa and go in onto the cheek, right? And just look and see if you can find a dividing line. Like, how did it go from the cheek to the nose or to the lips or to the eye? Or, just watch. It is thousands, imperceptible layers of attention that has learned that there are no lines in nature, that it just blends together, and that what representational painting has done was to miss what he got, which is I had to not only paint the thing in front of me with dimension, it's not a flat medieval kind of thing, but I also have to know what as he put it, the intentions of their mind, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they believe. And then he's animated her. So one of his critics is rhapsodizing in the mid 16th century about her face and what I'm talking about. And he drops down. He says, but I can see the blood pounding. I can see her pulse in there. And if he's done that,
Yeah.
and he's made her come alive. It's Dr. Frank. He's created life. And that's why our second episode is called Painter God, because he has taken inanimate objects, pigment, oil, tempera, a poplar panel. They didn't paint on canvases, but poplar panel. And he's made something that is not only the most famous painting in the world, mostly because we've forgotten why it's the most famous painting in the world. We make jokes about the smile. We draw mustaches on it if we're Marcel Duchamp. It's like George Washington. I'm making a big thing on the Revolution. It'll be out next year. And nobody knows anything about George Washington. It's like George Washington slept here is a punchline and a joke. There was a time when it really mattered where he slept, and the things that he did, we don't have a country without him, are so extraordinary that we've lost them. And so part of Leonardo is, for us, getting into a position where you can reclaim her and say, look at her. She's a real person. And all of the human project is etched in her face and her body and the background and her hair and all of that. And I hope next year we'll be saying, my goodness, this is a person with dimension. And we have an understanding a little bit more, not the Revolution isn't just a bug in amber, or a Mickey Mantle rookie card and lucite that you don't touch. It's like we let the Civil War be violent and World War I and World War II be violent, Vietnam, but the Revolution. Oh, it's just great. White guys thinking great thoughts.
How many times have you visited the Mona Lisa? Like, did you get some real access?
Oh yeah. Really great access.
Because I've only seen it in the Jay-Z and Beyonce video, so it's nice to hear from kind of a firsthand.
Well, so what happens is the first 2 or 3 times I was with the crowds, and you just go, "Geez, it's smaller than I thought, and I can't get there."
Sure.
And it's whatever. Why is this considered the most famous painting? Then we're working on Leonardo, and there coincidentally was a big exhibition at the Louvre of lots of his stuff. They aggregated just about everything. And I was scouting for Sarah and Dave and us in November of 19, and I took my little girls, my 2 youngest, for Thanksgiving away from the United States, which was weird. We had turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and green beans and pumpkin pie in Paris. That was good.
You got some pomme puree.
But no.
I was about to say.
On the day, dindon is turkey, right? So on the day that the Louvre is closed, I was scouting, and we're setting up the exhibition, which was just like an overwhelming thing. And the woman said, "Do you want to go see her?" I said, "Yes." And so we're standing as close as I'm standing to you, which means 3,000 miles away. No, she was right there.
That's
and then
cool.
we brought our cameras in, Buddy Squires, our cameraman, and we're able to get up close and film the action stuff.
But so you're saying you were that close to the Mona Lisa? You were there like alone, basically, because they were setting up.
Alone with there was a guard and a woman and my 2 younger daughters. That was
Look at that. It pays to be Ken Burns.
Did they pat you down to see if you had a jar of Rayo's tomato sauce on you?
Yeah. Right.
He's like, "Look, guys, I'm not going to glue my hand to this thing. I swear to God. I'm just here to make this move. We're making a documentary. Just leave me alone."
I'm fine with oil.
Well, we got in finally after 18 months. We got in to film The Last Supper, rather than they said, "Oh, take a high resolution thing." We go, no. We want to be there and film it, and it's so much better to be able to do that. I wasn't on that.
So when did you start the process for this? How long ago? Actually.
6 years ago, I said yes to it. So it's been 3 full-time years for Sarah and Dave. Less so for me because I'm moving from different things, and as they become, they're great filmmakers. They're co-directors. I can do that. Some films I've worked on recently where the person I was with wasn't confident about their interviewing skills, and so I did all the interviews, or most all.
You help out as you can, as you see fit.
Yeah, right. And then get to say, have the final word, but it doesn't. It's ridiculous to pull that rank when people care so passionately.
You should tell all the celebrities making documentaries about themselves that that's a bad thing to do. They could learn a little something from you.
We do not have enough time left to talk about that, do we? I've worked all my professional life in public broadcasting, and when I see, the subject's wife or the subject or the children in the credits as executive producer or producer, I go, oh my God, PBS would never allow that. Oh, by the way, I'm making a film about this. I mean, I had General Motors was an corporate underwriter for a long time. I could have never made a film even on Henry Ford, let
No,
alone,
definitely not. No. That's
and
it.
that's the church and state stuff. And I really firmly believe it's like a journalistic thing. You're just
Yeah.
have to say
Integrity.
the parent company of NBC, you have to say that. But in a documentary like this, you don't, what you don't know is what you're not being told, right? You're just, at what point did somebody, let's not name any names, go, I don't like that scene. I don't think it
Oh yeah,
flatters me. Or why are you putting that part in? And so
Martha probably said it a lot.
yeah, Martha.
she I saw that film. Yeah.
She saw it too. She wasn't happy with the final thing.
No,
So
she
I don't know.
wasn't.
I don't know if she had
She
that
wasn't.
much say. Maybe she didn't have as much say as we think, Jason.
I think she forgot that she mentioned she cheated on her husband multiple times.
Well,
by
first
the
of
time
all,
it came out.
first of all, I would never, until a film is done, bring anybody in to see the film.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I remember Rachel Robinson bothered us to make a film about Jackie Robinson. We had been a big part of our baseball series, but a standalone, and I couldn't find that. Finally, I said, okay, but if other filmmakers come, and she said, other filmmakers, I said, go with them, you go with them, and she'd leave them all. So we did it, and we brought her in after the film was done and showed her, and I thought, in the last 15 minutes of the second part of this two-part thing, we had to kill not only her husband in the last moments, but kill her oldest son who died in a car accident. And if you do your job as a filmmaker, like I thought, oh God, I've killed Rachel. She's still going strong. She's 101 or whatever she is. She's just, sadly has spent way more of her life without Jackie than she has. And you think of the oldest picture of him, it looks like he's 85, 53.
Yeah.
That's because of what he carried, all those spikes coming in.
Yeah, for sure.
To him, all the balls that went right by his head, the fastballs, all the people, the death threats,
No, that will age you. That will age you. That
will age you.
A couple questions as we're finishing up. I know you probably got to bank some more interviews. We were talking about food. I wanted to ask you what you thought about Chef's Table as a documentarian who eats.
I don't know it. I haven't seen it. I'm actually pretty much of a dull boy. I'm working all the time. So I get out when I'm proselytizing, and the rest of the time I'm working on whatever many films that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I do love food. I have understood, and I've tried to impart to my 4 daughters that, and I think they've all get it, that it's experiential and that it has to be it's not about things, right? I mean, that's what the pursuit of happiness is, not to bring you back to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, but they didn't mean the acquisition of objects in a marketplace of things. They meant lifelong learning in a marketplace of ideas. If you weren't susceptible to disinformation, you could lead a virtuous life. And if you led a virtuous life, you would then be closer to God. And they were deists who felt God was completely disinterested in whether you hit into a game-ending double play or whether you hit a game-winning walk-off grand slam home run. People cross the plates like, thank you, nothing to do with it. Just disinterested and doesn't distinguish between faiths, right? So all of a sudden it's reflected back on you. Who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? How do I lead a more virtuous life? That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Didn't think I was going to steer serious, right? Sorry.
No, that's great.
It
is. That's the pursuit of happiness.
It would be crazy if Ken Burns said something serious. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming
totally.
from
That's
a
a nice
mile
way
out.
to end it. But last question. Chris and I were talking before that, and he was reminiscing of when Civil War came out and how people would go to try to buy blank video cassettes to record it on television, and they would sell out all over the place. I wanted to know your thoughts on the rise, the slow rise, or the return of physical media.
Yeah, I don't think I've certainly, there's no there anymore. And that's what I think people are like. I have most of the people I know don't have a DVD player, but a link is not a DVD, right? It's just not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a little bit, Gertrude Stein said this of her hometown of Oakland, California. She said, there's no there. And what we want is, particularly now when everything is so ephemeral, for there to be some there. I'm very happy to say that we may be the last people on earth that are selling DVDs of our stuff because demographic skews a little bit older, but I haven't bought a CD in a long time. I'm vinyl. Jack Black just gave me a turntable, and I gave it to my granddaughter, and I got another one. And we're playing vinyl the way I used to forever. I found my old record collection. I'd worked in a record store in Ann Arbor, and I gave most of it to my granddaughter, and the other, we're playing it all the time. And so I think that there is, something about being there. It's like anything artificial, right? Anything.
All right. Well, I'll make sure to buy all your stuff on Blu-ray just to kind of keep the lights on over there.
My grandchildren, thank you, all 4 of them.
That's right. No, Ken, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure.
This is fun. This is so much fun. You guys are so great.
When does it come out?
So Leonardo premieres on the 18th and 19th of this month. That is November. They're going to play episode 1 twice, so 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. And then the next night, Tuesday night, the 19th, they'll play episode 2 at 8 and at 10, so that whenever you can do it. And it's available immediately for streaming, and the DVDs and the Blu-rays are out. So we know that we've sold at least one, Chris, and that's really encouraging to us.
I'll have to buy a Blu-ray player at the same time, but let's not get caught up in the details. That's
Yes,
neither here nor there.
And just remember, it will pay for itself eventually.
Exactly.
Right?
No, exactly. They're cheap now.
With
They're
the
cheap
unlimited use and pleasure you get from holding a real thing.
That's
right.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to tell me.
The player will be cheaper than the film.
That's right.
True.
Exactly.
That's true.
Ken, it's an honor. We appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
It's great to be with you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, let's do it again.
We'll do it again.
Later.